My mother-in-law, who was fine until yesterday, has passed away. It was all so sudden. She was a kind person to me, a bit playful and adorable, far from the stereotypical mother-in-law from hell often depicted in YouTube videos. Mom, why did you have to go so suddenly? I mourn her as if she were my own mother. However, despite it being during the funeral, a rough voice could be heard coming from beside me. It's my right to get a share, isn't it? What? You're challenging me, the eldest son? My mother-in-law had 4 sons, including my husband Scott. None of them seemed to mourn her. They were all seriously discussing the inheritance at the funeral. I just wanted them to send her off with warmth and respect, but when I spoke up, I got rebuked. You're after the inheritance too, aren't you? Can't you see we're discussing something important? Outsiders like you should stay out of this. It was shocking. Perhaps he spoke out of anger, but still, to be spoken to in such a way by my husband. While feeling suspicious of them, I hastily sent off my mother-in-law. And then, 7 days later, after the inheritance was divided, my husband and his brothers, having lost interest, stopped visiting their family home altogether. In their place, I went to put flowers, cleaned the neglected house, and took care of the beloved dog that my mother-in-law had cherished. While cleaning the doghouse, I heard a rustling sound coming from the back. Becoming suspicious, I pulled it out, and something appeared that shouldn't have been there. My name is Kelly. I'm a working wife, juggling a career and household responsibilities. People say I'm a bit unique because I'm a magician. Ever since I was taken to a magic show as a child, I've been enchanted by the joy and surprise that magic brings to people. I was lucky enough to learn from the magician I admired. I believe I was able to bring smiles to various people, including my parents, by learning and practicing various things from my mentor, including the mindset towards skills and professions. Magic is my pride. Virgil and I got close through a magic event company and got married. At first, my husband used to compliment my magic tricks, saying things like, "You have amazing talent," and "It's your true calling." But gradually, he started making disparaging remarks about my work, saying things like, "It's low paying, and anyone can do it." Despite both of us working, I'm left to handle almost all the household chores. The relationship with my husband started to get a bit rocky. Where had the kind man who delighted in even my simplest magic tricks gone since our honeymoon days? Despite Virgil's demeaning comments about my profession as a magician, his mother, my mother-in-law, always praised my magic, which was a great comfort. I never met my father-in-law, as he passed away from illness a few years ago, but my mother-in-law had been incredibly warm and kind since I first met her for our introduction. She always looked out for me and had kind words to share. She would beam with joy more than anyone else when I performed magic tricks. Since the moment I met her, I've adored her and often visited her home even after getting married. She had a big family, with 4 sons including Virgil and 10 grandchildren. She lived with the eldest son's family. They once welcomed a cute, large breed puppy, but as the dog grew, they started neglecting it, except for my mother-in-law, who took great care of it. Whenever I visited, I would help with brushing and walking the dog, and it eventually grew fond of me. I've always loved animals. Especially loved dogs, and now it warmly welcomes me every time I visit, which I find incredibly adorable. I used to have great chats with my mother-in-law about the dog, but the eldest son's wife once told me not to come over so often as it was a nuisance. I realized that frequent visits from an outsider could be bothersome and decided to refrain from visiting for a while. Although this distanced me from my mother-in-law for some time, after having 2 children, our interaction resumed, albeit not as frequently as before. Are you heading out? Yeah, didn't I tell you? I'm busy with work since I got promoted. Are you going to your mom's place again? Must be nice to be free like that. Okay, have a good day. His sharp tone made me want to argue, but I held back my words. Virgil was often away due to work, and we rarely visited his mother's house together. One day, my mother-in-law invited me over, saying she bought some snacks. Your birthday is coming up soon, isn't it? What would you like this year? I appreciate it every year, but now that I'm turning 60, I don't really crave material things anymore. Wait, you're turning 60? Hey, don't say it so loudly. I mean, I already have lots of grandchildren, so I guess I'm a respectable grandma now, huh? Let's celebrate. I'll organize it. I'm sure everyone will want to make it a big celebration. Oh, really? Do you think so? My mother-in-law was hesitant, but she seemed somewhat bashful about it. After returning home, I immediately called my husband's brothers. But none of them or their wives seemed enthusiastic about it. Even my husband was indifferent. What's that about? I'm busy, you know. It's just a birthday party, right? You started this, so you handle the preparations. He said coldly, leaving me feeling downhearted. Somehow, though they wouldn't help with the preparations, Virgil's brothers and their families agreed to attend the party. I didn't want to disappoint my mother-in-law, so I put my all into getting everything ready for the big day. All right, it's perfect. While my mother-in-law, whom I had sent to a nearby cafe with some money, was away, I decorated the house and prepared the feast. As Virgil's brothers and their families arrived, not one of them brought a gift or even thanked me. My husband was no different. I didn't expect thanks for organizing something I took upon myself, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being unappreciated. Even before my mother-in-law returned, they started to dig into the food and drinks, and I had to stop them just in time. Oh my, everyone came to celebrate? She was delighted to see her sons and grandchildren all gathered. She laughed heartily at the new magic trick I performed with the kids. Thanks to Kelly for organizing today's party, she said with a smile as we washed the dishes together. After the party, when everyone left without helping clean up, and the eldest son's family retreated to their rooms, I felt a bit miffed. But seeing my mother-in-law happy made it all seem worthwhile. See you later, Kelly. She waved goodbye with a smile as I left late in the night. Little did I know, that would be our last exchange. When I got home, I found a letter in the mailbox. The contents made me feel a bit exasperated that nobody had bothered to send anything for my mother-in-law's birthday. The next day, while my kids were at daycare, I decided to return the containers I had used to bring home leftovers from the party. I felt an odd sense of urgency that morning. No one answered the doorbell. It seemed like the house was empty. As I was about to leave, I heard the dog barking in the yard. What happened? I found the dog's chain tangled around it. After freeing the dog from its collar, it dashed straight to the window of the veranda. Through the window, I saw my mother-in-law lying on the floor in the living room. Mom! In a panic, I rushed around to the front door, which was thankfully unlocked, and hurried into the living room. My mother-in-law's beloved dog was desperately barking next to her, lying motionless as if crying for help. I immediately called an ambulance, but it was too late. My mother-in-law, who had been healthy just the day before, had passed away from a stroke. My heart was filled with a sense of loss, but there was no time to grieve as I hurriedly contacted family members. Soon, the funeral came. My mother-in-law, who had 4 sons, was not mourned by any of them. Throughout the funeral, they only seemed seriously interested in discussing the inheritance. Despite my suspicions about them, I placed a photo from the recent 60th birthday party inside her coffin and hurriedly sent her off. I expressed my desire to put flowers in the vase next to my mother-in-law's photo, and the eldest son's family begrudgingly let me into the house. I invited Virgil, but he just said, "I'm busy," and couldn't join. From the balcony, I could hear the dog whimpering sadly, whine. The eldest son's family didn't want to care for the dog, so I negotiated to look after it in the mornings and evenings, fitting it in between childcare and work. In a little while, I'll negotiate to take the dog home with me. I thought to myself. Today, with some extra time, I was cleaning the neglected doghouse and discovered something stuck to the ceiling inside. It was hidden from outside view. Curious, I peeled it off. Perhaps to protect it from getting wet, a fancy envelope in a plastic bag. Inside, a note in a pop font read, "A gift for the person taking care of the dog." Open the trick box. Another paper included a map with "Here's where the trick box is" written on it. It seemed like a joke meant for kids. Although I could have ignored it, something made me curious. The usually calm dog barked excitedly, as if encouraging me to look. Following the map, I started digging in the indicated spot. Could there actually be treasure buried here? As I was lost in thought, digging, the dog joined in to help. Soon, a trick box emerged from the ground. It seemed like a child's toy, but was quite tricky to open. Thanks to my experience with sleight of hand and magic, I struggled but eventually managed to open it. Inside, there was a letter addressed to Kelly and a small key. The letter explained that the previous note was made to look like a joke so that my money-minded children wouldn't take it seriously. The note stated that the hidden location of the safe, which contained items not to be found, was written down. Apparently she had been planning and preparing for quite some time before she passed away. Furthermore, the letter revealed that her eldest son and his wife, along with Scott and his other brothers, had been borrowing money from her, leaving no inheritance in the house. She wanted to leave something for me, who had been kind to her, and instructed me to pretend I didn't find anything and accept this gift. Following the map, I found the safe and opened it with the key from the trick box. Inside were several pieces of jewelry, including diamond rings and necklaces. I didn't know the value of these sparkling diamonds, but I was touched that my mother-in-law had left something for me. However, I couldn't help but cry, thinking of all the things I still wanted to do with and for her, now that she was no longer in this world. I decided to honor her last wish and keep this discovery a secret from Virgil and his brothers. Then, my phone rang. It was Virgil. Hello? Hey, you need to be there for the inheritance discussion. It's the day after tomorrow. Bye. Hey, wait. He said abruptly, and the call ended. After that, he didn't come home, and I reluctantly went to the meeting. There, all of his brothers and their wives were present. Seeing the bank books and metal items on the table, everyone sighed in disappointment. The eldest son, Scott, incurred huge losses in the stock market. The second son, John, spent a fortune on extravagant affairs, and on top of that, my husband Virgil loudly complained in front of everyone, "I'm struggling because my allowance is too small." The wives of each brother all looked at me at once, but this was the first time I had heard such a claim from my husband. "No, you spend most of your earnings yourself, ouch." I began to retort, but was interrupted by a sharp pain. Virgil had pinched me hard on the back. Feigning ignorance, he continued to lament about being broke. "Anyway, I have no money." Despite the pain, I couldn't help but think something was off. Afterwards, the second son, John, who had started a business, was struggling with debts, and the fourth son, Gordon, had a hobby of collecting cars and apparently needed money for that. It turned out that everyone, each for their own self-made reasons, was short of cash. They had all begged my mother-in-law for money during her lifetime, leaving no substantial savings to be called an inheritance. This revelation led to an ugly exchange of insults and blame that was too harsh to be made public. It was a good thing I had left my children with my parents. Had they been there, I would have deeply regretted it. The brothers shouted at each other, and their wives did nothing to stop them, instead joining in. My attempts to calm everyone down were ignored. Afterward, someone suggested, "We have no choice but to sell the family home," but everyone agreed, "Even if we sell it, it won't bring in much money. She was a useless old woman. What does she think we lived together and took care of her for? At least do something useful for your children in the end." I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed my hands down on the table. Everyone was shocked, and the room fell into complete silence. "What are all of you saying? It's shameful. Talking about money like this. How can you speak ill of such a kind woman? It's terrible. Don't you have any heart?" Everyone was stunned by my outburst, but my husband grabbed my shoulder tightly. "Hey, you're not involved in this. Don't butt in. If you're gonna keep yelling, just go home," he said angrily. But I stood my ground and shook off his grip. "Fine, I will go home." And while I'm at it, I'll leave a divorce paper and leave for good. He looked baffled, not understanding what I was saying. What? Are you serious? Don't make a scene here. Do I look like I'm lying? I'm serious. My decision to divorce wasn't spontaneous. I had been contemplating it for a while. And recent events solidified my resolve. I look at my husband with an unwavering resolve. My husband realized I was serious. Why? What happened? Is it because your beloved mother-in-law is gone? It's not just that. We can't settle this here. Let's go home. That day, the meeting ended abruptly, and Scott and I returned home. Back at home, just the two of us, a heavy silence filled the room. Sitting across the dining table, Virgil looked utterly confused and defensive. He took out a beer from the fridge for himself, popped the tab open, and began to drink. Sensing unpredictability from him, I discreetly switched on the voice recorder I had hidden in my pocket earlier. It might come in handy later. So? Why did you say you want a divorce? Have you lost your mind? I haven't lost my mind. I told you, I'm serious. You know the reason better than anyone, don't you? Huh? I hate it when you beat around the bush. Just tell me the reason, straight up. He slammed his half-finished beer can on the table. Unfazed, I calmly responded. I got a call. From a woman saying she wants to marry you and for me to leave you. His face changed in an instant. Someone you're getting along with? Her, right? Yes. Your mistress. She's very young, isn't she? I was surprised. Her syrupy, immature voice had called my cell phone. The news was a shock, but it also made sense. He had become distant after we got married because he had a mistress. Without me asking, she gushed about their romantic escapades. Day trips, stays in hotel suites. I couldn't help but question her nerve for telling all this to his wife. However, as she spoke, I decided to gather evidence of the affair. I started recording midway through the conversation. Furthermore, by expressing envy like, I've never stayed in such a hotel, I'm jealous. I'd love to see it, and flattering the mistress, who was reveling in her superiority, she surprisingly ended up sending me photos taken with my husband in a suite room. Photos that showed a lot of skin, even going to the extent of mailing them to me. Though I was filled with disgust and anger, I was glad to have solid evidence. She called a few more times, happily telling me how my husband spent most of his weekends at her place, paid her rent, and showered her with expensive gifts. Things he never did for me and our children. So much for his complaints about having too little pocket money. His busy work excuse was mostly a lie. His late returns from work and weekend duties were all excuses to spend time with his mistress. Pretending to be oblivious, I once called his office on a day he claimed to be working overtime. Of course, he wasn't working, and there was no promotion. In fact, he had been absent without leave, causing trouble at work. You neglect your duties, drown in a woman's arms. What are you doing? It's pathetic. You called my office? That's a violation of my privacy. My husband, with his face turning bright red and spitting in anger as he shouted, was quite an unsightly sight. Don't be ridiculous. If necessary, I'll have your office testify. You could even be sued by them for your unauthorized absences. What? And with no raise, how can you afford to pay your mistress's rent and lavish her with brand gifts? Did you use the money you begged from your mother for your affair? Damn it, I don't want to be lectured about how I use my money by a stranger like you. Fine, let's get divorced. I'll marry that young, cute, and kind girl. I'm sick of you, a charmless nag with kids. It'll be refreshing to be rid of this burden. He was infuriated, but I calmly presented the divorce papers I had previously obtained. I've filled in my part. Will you sign? Sure. He furiously wrote his name and stamped it. I'll file this. I'll contact you later about alimony and child support. Get out, get out. I carefully put the divorce papers in my bag, left the house without looking back at Scott, and headed to my parents' house. At my parents', they warmly welcomed us. The kids were happy to live with their grandparents, and our lives were filled with more laughter and joy than before. I devoted myself more to my work. One day, while everyone was out and I was alone, after finishing chores, I was relaxing on the sofa watching recorded TV shows when the doorbell rang. Without checking properly, I casually opened the door. "Hi," and it was Virgil. I realized my carelessness too late. The damage was already done. I saw his menacing face as he blocked the door with his foot. "It's been a while," he said, looking down at me. "What do you want?" "Receipts for jewelry purchases made by Mom surfaced." "What?" "The jewelry found at the family home was all fake or cheap. I think you might have the real stuff." "Huh? I haven't received any expensive jewelry like that." "Really? Maybe you sweet-talked my mom into buying them for you." "I would never do that. I'm not like your mistress or your brothers." "Really? Then show me around the house." "What? I told you I don't have it." "Hey, wait a minute." Ignoring my protest, he barged into the house. "Stop." I rushed to stop him, but he pushed past me and started rummaging through drawers and shelves. He must have been looking for the jewelry my mother-in-law left after her death, hidden in the trick box. "Oh, this must be it." He found an ornate jewelry box and his eyes sparkled with greed. "That is." As he opened the box, boink. Whoa. From inside, a realistic toy snake sprang out forcefully. It was something I made for a magic trick. It was too realistic and unpopular among audiences, so it was never used. Scott recoiled in surprise at the toy snake, and I had to suppress a laugh at his foolish appearance. "What the hell is this, Kelly? Are you making fun of me?" "Of course not. You're the one who opened it." "Damn it, you're playing games with me." The item Scott was searching for was now safely stored inside the trick box in the safe. He continued his search, and eventually found the trick box. "What's this, a toy?" However, he quickly lost interest and started looking elsewhere. I breathed a sigh of relief that he didn't find it. "Where is it?" he yelled in frustration. Just then, a stern voice cut through the tension. "What are you doing here?" It was my father. Surveying the chaos in the house, my father, who practiced martial arts and was quite intimidating, angrily said, "What's with this mess? This is breaking and entering." Virgil, who had always been intimidated by my father, hastily stammered an apology and fled like a flash of light. "Sorry." After explaining the situation and apologizing to my father, he was more concerned about my well-being, asking, "Are you okay? Did he do anything to you?" Later, when my mother returned, the three of us cleaned up the room and went to pick up the kids. I later heard from my lawyer about Virgil and his family's current situation. The brothers had searched everywhere for the expensive jewelry they believed my mother-in-law had bought, but of course, found nothing. He still suspected I had it and even mentioned it to the lawyer during a visit, but the lawyer firmly stated it wasn't with her, and Scott seemed to finally accept it. He had lied a pay raise, and spent most of his time at his mistress's place. His work attitude worsened, his performance dropped, leading to a demotion. Frustrated, he quit his job amid a recession. Unable to afford his mistress's rent and gifts, he became completely dependent on her, and she eventually grew tired of him. The end of the money marked the end of their relationship. Despite her earlier boasts about their love, she had no intention of supporting Virgil indefinitely. I'm also suing the mistress for damages, as there's ample evidence against her. There's an abundance of evidence, so there's no way they can talk their way out of it. Virgil's brothers, who had relied entirely on my mother-in-law, were now constantly complaining and fighting over the inheritance. It seems that my lawyer has also been receiving inquiries about divorce from my husband's other brothers. The lawyer, due to professional ethics, has no intention of taking their cases, but it seems that several of the other brothers are likely to get divorced soon. Following my parents' advice, I had the jewelry from my mother-in-law appraised. The largest diamond ring turned out to be worth around $50,000. Surprised, I decided to heed my parents' advice to use it wisely. I plan to give some of it to my children and the many innocent grandchildren of my mother-in-law when they are older. I believe she would be happy with that decision. As for me, I have a dream. Once my children are older, I want to tour the country and delight more people with the magic that my mother-in-law loved so much. I hope she watches from heaven. And if she could watch my magic tricks from up in the sky and smile, that would make me very happy. And then came a joyful bark from my family, all animal lovers. After leaving the house, I was always worried about my mother-in-law's dog, which I had left behind. Although it was wrong, I secretly visited and took care of the dog while the eldest son's family was away. The dog, nearly neglected, was overjoyed to see me. My lawyer managed to negotiate with the eldest son's family, and surprisingly, they agreed to give the dog to me unconditionally. They no longer had the means to care for it. I thought they might demand money for the dog, so I prepared some just in case. However, it seemed that the eldest son's family no longer had the capacity to even care for the dog. Today, I officially welcomed my mother-in-law's dog as our family pet. The children were ecstatic, petting the dog, which rolled on its back, wagging its tail as if it would fall off. I silently vowed to my late mother-in-law I would take care of the dog until its end. Looking up at the sky. It is cloudless, expansive blue sky. Today was a perfect day for a walk.
My name's Sarah, and if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be in the middle of a tech startup whirlwind with Alex, of all people, I'd have laughed in your face. Alex and I met in college, in one of those highfalutin business courses, where everyone thinks they're the next big thing. From the get-go, Alex and I were at each other's throats, competing for grades, internships, you name it. Think you can beat my presentation, Sarah? Alex would tease, leaning against the classroom door with that annoying smirk. Watch me, Alex. I'm not just going to beat it, I'm going to make you wish you never stepped up. I'd fire back, my words a mix of jest and determination. That was our thing, always pushing each other to be better, but never admitting it was actually helpful. It wasn't until a group project forced us to work together that things shifted. We found our rhythm, a balance between his bold ideas and my attention to detail. One night, while cramming for the project, we ended up sharing more than just notes. You know, Sarah, I always thought you were just a pain in my ass. But you're actually kinda brilliant, Alex confessed, his guard down for once, as we sat amidst a sea of papers and empty coffee cups. Kinda brilliant? Please, I'm the best thing that's happened to this project. But yeah, you're not too shabby yourself, Alex, I said, the words feeling foreign but honest. That project was a turning point. Our bickering turned into brainstorming sessions, and before we knew it, we were more than just competitors or even friends. We were in love, talking about futures and dreams in a way neither of us had dared before. One evening, just as the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the campus, Alex turned to me with an idea. What if we don't just dream about making something of ourselves? What if we actually do it? Together? You mean, start a company? You and me? I asked, the idea sounding crazy but thrilling. Yeah, why not? We make a good team, Sarah. We could make this work, Alex said, his eyes alight with the kind of passion I'd come to admire. I couldn't help but laugh, the sound echoing in the emptying quad. All right, Mr. Big Shot. But if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. No half-assing it. Deal. But I'm the director, Alex quickly added, that familiar smirk returning. Fine, Mr. Director. But remember, behind every great man is a woman rolling her eyes, I quipped, our laughter mingling with the promises of the future. Fast forward to graduation, and we were married. Not just to each other, but to our dream. We poured everything we had into our startup. Alex took the title of director, wearing it like a crown. Part of me found it endearing, his childlike excitement at being able to call himself a director. I knew the title meant the world to him, not for the power it held but for the status he thought it brought. Our little company started to grow, our dreams slowly turning into reality. It was hard work, longer hours than either of us could have imagined, but we were doing it together. Our little startup was like a newborn, demanding all our time and attention. Alex and I were in it elbow deep, trying to juggle a million things at once. It was during this chaotic dance of meetings, coding sessions, and endless coffee runs that Emily walked into our lives. We hired her on the spot. It wasn't just her confidence, it was her energy. She was like a live wire, ready to electrify our startup and push it into the spotlight. And that's exactly what she did. Emily wasn't just good at her job, she was phenomenal. Her campaigns were creative, edgy, and exactly what we needed. But it wasn't just her work that stood out, it was her personality. She was funny, quick-witted, and fit right into the little family we were building at the company. It was easy with Emily. She had this way of making everyone feel at ease, a magnetic personality that drew you in. But there were moments when I caught a glimpse of something else, a sort of loneliness that she masked with her humor. One day, while we were brainstorming in the office, I decided to broach the subject. "Emily, how come someone as awesome as you is still single?" Not prying, just curious. Emily's smile faltered for a second before she shrugged, her usual brightness dimming. "Guess not everyone's as lucky as you, Sarah. Finding a guy like Alex? That's like striking gold." Her words were offhand, but the undercurrent of bitterness was unmistakable. It caught me off guard, stirring an unease I couldn't quite place. "Hey, there's plenty of gold out there. Just gotta know where to look." I tried to lighten the mood, but Emily just shook her head, the topic clearly closed for discussion. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, our little company began to take shape. Emily's campaigns were bringing in clients, and our product was gaining traction. But it wasn't just the business that was growing, our relationships were too. Emily had become an integral part of our lives, blurring the lines between work and friendship. It was a golden time, filled with hard work, harder laughs, and the feeling that we were on the brink of something great. Emily, with her talent and fire, had become more than just an employee, she was a friend, a confidant, and a crucial part of our dream. As our startup began gaining momentum, I noticed a shift in Alex's focus. It wasn't the company that kept him busy, but rather, the pursuit of the perfect business suit or the latest model car. His obsession with appearances had always been a quirk I tolerated, but now it seemed to take precedence over the hard graft our company required. "Alex, don't you think there's more to focus on right now than another suit?" I asked him one morning, finding him browsing through an online luxury store during work hours. "Come on, Sarah. You know how it is. Looking the part is half the battle in business. Life's too short to deny myself the finer things," he retorted without looking up, his attention fixed on the screen. I shook my head, exasperated. "Sure, but maybe the other half of the battle is actually running the business? You know, the one we're trying to build here?" He finally glanced up, offering a half-smile that was meant to disarm. "Relax, Sarah. Everything's under control. A director needs to look sharp. It's good for morale." His nonchalance irked me, but I decided to let it go. There were bigger battles to fight, especially with the unsettling rumors that had begun to circulate around the office. One late evening, I was burning the midnight oil in the office when I decided to take a break and grab some coffee. As I neared the break room, I caught snippets of conversation that made me freeze in my tracks. "Saw Alex and Emily cozying up in the marketing suite yesterday. Didn't look like any work meeting to me," one of our developers muttered, unaware of my presence. "Yeah, there's definitely something going on there. They've been spending a lot of time together after hours," another chimed in, their tone laced with gossip. I felt a lump form in my throat. My initial instinct was to brush it off as baseless office chatter, but the seed of doubt was planted. With a heavy heart and a mind swirling with questions, I retreated back to my office, the coffee forgotten. The next day, I decided to confront Alex. I needed to hear his side, to clear the air. Finding him in his office, leaning back in his chair with that all-too-familiar smirk, I didn't waste any time. "Alex, we need to talk. There's talk going around about you and Emily." "What's going on?" My tone was more confrontational than I intended, my emotions getting the better of me. Alex's smirk faded, replaced by a look of confusion. "Talk? What talk?" "Sarah, you know me. Why would I do anything to jeopardize what we have here?" His words were meant to be reassuring, but there was a stiffness to his laughter that didn't sit right with me. "I want to believe you, Alex, but the rumors. They're not just going to go away. People are talking. People always talk, Sarah. It doesn't mean we have to listen. Emily's a crucial part of our team, nothing more. You think I'd risk our dream for a fling?" Alex's voice was firm, his eyes meeting mine in a challenge. I wanted to believe him, to brush off the rumors as just that, rumors. But the nagging doubt lingered, casting a shadow over our conversation. "All right, Alex. I just needed to hear it from you. Let's just focus on the work, okay?" "Always," he replied, but the ease that once defined our interaction seemed strained, tainted by suspicion. In the days that followed, I threw myself into my work, trying to ignore the whispers and the sideways glances. Emily, for her part, seemed oblivious to the rumors, her focus solely on her campaigns. But the atmosphere in the office had changed. What was once a place of camaraderie and innovation now felt like a minefield. I found myself observing Alex and Emily more closely, searching for any sign that the rumors might be true. Their interactions, once thoughtless and friendly, now seemed fraught with hidden meanings. The weeks leading up to the big contract signing were a blur of negotiations, revisions, and, frankly, a fair bit of groveling. The director on the other end was the type who'd make a saint swear. Every meeting, every call, it felt like wading through mud. But the payoff? It was going to be huge. This deal was our ticket to the big leagues, a chance to level up our startup in ways we'd only dreamed of. So, I buckled down, ignored the growing pile of laundry at home, and let takeout containers become my primary diet. "Look, I know he's a pain, but if we land this, it's game changer," I told Alex during one of our late-night strategy sessions. "Yeah, if he doesn't drive us insane first," Alex replied, his eyes glued to his laptop. Emily chimed in with her usual optimism. "We've got this. Sarah's been crushing it. He's practically eating out of her hand now." I wasn't so sure about the eating out of her hand part, but we were close, damn close. And when the day finally came to ink the deal, the sense of anticipation in the office was electric. The annoying director, somehow less irksome with a pen in hand ready to sign, was there alongside us, a necessary evil in our path to victory. The moment the contract was signed, the atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to outright celebration. Champagne bottles popped, and glasses clinked, the sound of success ringing loud in the lobby of our little startup that could. Alex, with that director by his side, stepped forward to address the crowd. "I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible effort that went into making today possible," Alex started, his voice carrying over the buzz of conversations. "Sarah, in particular, has been instrumental in getting us to this point." There was applause, a few cheers, and I allowed myself a small smile. Maybe all the stress was worth it after all. But then Alex's smile turned into something I couldn't read, a mix of smugness and something colder. Which is why it's even harder to announce that as of today, Sarah will no longer be with us. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that sucks the air right out of you. "What are you talking about, Alex?" I managed, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. "As the director of this company, I've made the decision to let Sarah go. We're moving in a new direction, and it's a decision I've not made lightly," Alex continued, his eyes avoiding mine. The confusion was palpable, the shock of his words echoing off the walls. My heart hammered against my ribs, a mix of disbelief and rising fury taking hold. You can't be serious. After everything, you're firing me? From my own company? My voice was rising, the outrage clear. The room spun, faces blending into a mosaic of shock and sympathy. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This deal was meant to be our triumph, not my downfall. Everyone's eyes were on us, shock painted on every face. But Alex wasn't done. With a coldness I'd never seen in him, he added. And there's more. I'm filing for divorce, Sarah. This has been a long time coming. Before I could even process the words, Emily, the so-called friend and our advertising executive, stood up and wrapped her arms around Alex. Her laughter sliced through the silence, a sound so out of place it felt surreal. I've known Alex way before you did, sweetie. Emily gloated, her eyes locked on mine, filled with a triumph I couldn't comprehend. All this, your little dream company, was just part of our plan. You were just a stepping stone. The room spun. This was a nightmare. You planned this? My voice was barely a whisper, my mind struggling to piece together the betrayal. Alex shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. Business is business, Sarah. We needed you to get the company off the ground, to seal the deal. And now, we're moving on. The betrayal stung, a physical pain in my chest. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The eyes of our employees, once filled with respect and camaraderie, now showed anger and disbelief. I can't believe you, was all I managed to say before turning to leave, my vision blurred by tears. But then, something unexpected happened. One by one, our team stood up. We're with you, Sarah. Mark, one of our developers, said firmly. We don't want any part of this betrayal. Yeah, count us out. Another joined in. We signed up to work with you, not them. Their words, their solidarity, gave me strength. I wasn't alone. As we all walked out together, Alex's voice echoed in the now empty lobby, calling out in a futile attempt to make them stay. In the end, it was just Alex and Emily left standing in the lobby of the company I built. Their victory was hollow, their future uncertain. We gathered in my small living room, a makeshift war room, surrounded by whiteboards and laptops. The air was thick with the smell of coffee and the buzz of ideas bouncing off the walls. Okay, team, we're at square one again, but that's not going to stop us. I started, my voice firm, trying to project confidence I was still mustering up. We've got the talent, the drive, and most importantly, we've got each other. Mark, ever the pragmatist, was the first to speak up. Right, we've got heart, but we also need a solid plan. What's our angle? What are we bringing to the table that's different this time? Lisa, who had always been the creative spark, jumped in. We need to innovate. Remember those ideas we thought were too out there? Now's the time to bring them to life. No holding back. The room nodded in agreement, the energy shifting from uncertainty to excitement. It was clear we were all in, ready to take risks we'd previously shied away from. And what about Alex and Emily? They're not going to take this lying down, I said, the thought of facing them again leaving a bitter taste. We focus on us, not them, Mark said firmly. We build something so good they won't be able to touch us. Let them play their games. We're here to win. The room erupted into a chorus of agreement, the resolve in each voice stronger than any doubt or fear. We need a name, Lisa suddenly said, a smile spreading across her face. Something that tells the world we're not just back, but better than ever. The suggestions started flying, some ridiculous, some brilliant, but all of them infused with the hope and camaraderie that had brought us together in my living room. After hours of debate, brainstorming, and more cups of coffee than I could count, we landed on a name that felt right. It was bold, it was fresh, and it perfectly captured the essence of our new beginning. Phoenix. With our mission clear and our spirits high, we ended the meeting with a sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time since the betrayal, I felt like we were on the right path. As everyone packed up their things, Mark lingered behind, a thoughtful look on his face. You know, Sarah, what Alex did, it's going to make our victory that much sweeter. We're going to show him what he lost. We're going to show everyone. His words were the reassurance I needed. Yes, we had been knocked down, but we were far from out. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about proving to ourselves that we could rise from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever. After filing for divorce, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, the kind you don't realize you're carrying until it's gone. My newfound freedom was intoxicating, a fresh start I hadn't known I desperately needed. Then, out of the blue, Alex called, his voice dripping with urgency and desperation. He wanted to meet, and despite every instinct telling me it was a bad idea, curiosity won over. We agreed to meet at a rundown diner on the outskirts of town, a place so nondescript it felt like a metaphor for our failed marriage. Alex was already there when I arrived, looking like a shadow of the man I once knew, with Emily, the cause of all this drama, clinging to his arm like a designer handbag. Sarah, thank you for coming, Alex began, trying to muster a semblance of dignity. We're in a bit of a bind. Emily, her eyes swollen from what I assumed were tears, chimed in with a sniffle. The deal, Sarah, the big deal we were all so happy about, it's gone. Cancelled. I couldn't help it, laughter bubbled up from within me, echoing off the dingy diner walls. Oh, let me guess, the contract that anyone could cancel within 14 days? That one? I managed between fits of laughter. Their faces were a mix of shock and embarrassment. How did you? Alex stammered, unable to finish. The director, the one you found so annoying? Turns out he has a thing against working with backstabbers, I said, my grin widening. The look of defeat on their faces was almost enough to make me feel sorry for them. Almost. Then, Alex, ever the opportunist, tried to salvage what little he could from the wreckage. Sarah, where did you get the funds for your new venture? Legally, I'm entitled to half, he said, desperation seeping through his feigned confidence. The audacity of the man was almost impressive. I laughed, harder this time, the sound bitter. Alex, dear, I've been making money long before you decided playing director suited you. I was a genius when you met me, and I'll be a genius long after you're just a footnote in my success story. Their faces were a picture of realization, the truth finally dawning on them that they had underestimated me at every turn. Standing up, ready to leave this chapter of my life behind, I looked them both in the eye. Good luck, you too. Something tells me you're going to need it far more than I ever will. As I walked out of the diner, the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the world in a warm, golden light. It felt symbolic, a sign that despite everything, I was on the right path. In the days that followed, I threw myself into my work, my new company, becoming a beacon of hope and ambition. The team and I worked day and night, our shared vision fueling us forward. Meetings with investors, late-night brainstorming sessions, and the relentless pursuit of innovation became my new normal. Each small victory was a testament to our resilience, a middle finger to those who had tried to bring us down. One evening, as we celebrated landing a major client, the team gathered around, beers in hand, the mood light and triumphant. Mark, ever the voice of reason, raised his glass. To Sarah, the toughest boss I've ever had the pleasure of working for. You showed us what it means to rise from the ashes. The team cheered, their support and belief in me more valuable than any deal or contract. Yeah, and to think, Alex and Emily thought they could take you down, Lisa added, laughter in her voice. I smiled, my heart full. Let them think what they want. We're here, we're succeeding, and that's the best revenge we could ever have. After everything that went down, I did the only thing I knew how. I built something new from the ground up. My new company wasn't just a rebound, it was a phoenix rising from the ashes, stronger and more vibrant than anything before. And the best part? My loyal crew was right there with me, every step of the way. We even managed to lock down a deal with the same partner company that bailed on Alex and Emily, proving that integrity and hard work do pay off. One day, as we were wrapping up a team meeting in our new, buzzing office space, Mark couldn't help but bring up the latest gossip that had been making rounds. "So, have you guys heard? Alex and Emily's venture tanked. They're drowning in debt." Lisa, always the one to find a silver lining, added with a smirk, "Guess they learned the hard way that you can't build something lasting on lies and betrayal." I leaned back in my chair, the corners of my mouth turning up. Well, it's a tough lesson, but it looks like karma doesn't take shortcuts. The room filled with nods and murmurs of agreement. It was true, we'd come out on the other side of adversity, not just surviving, but thriving. Alright, team, let's keep our eyes on the prize. We've got a lot to do, and I'm damn proud of what we've achieved. But this is just the beginning, I said, standing up, feeling the energy of the room lift even higher. As the team dispersed back to their desks, filled with a renewed sense of purpose, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey. Starting over wasn't just about proving Alex and Emily wrong, it was about proving to ourselves that we could overcome anything. Later, as I was getting ready to leave for the day, Mark caught up with me by the elevator. "You know, Sarah, seeing Alex and Emily's downfall doesn't give me as much satisfaction as seeing what we've built here. This is real success." I smiled, looking back at the office where our team was hard at work, laughter and light filling the space. "You're right, Mark. This is what success looks like. Not the failure of others, but the triumph of our own spirit." Stepping into the elevator, I hit the button for the ground floor. As the doors closed, I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me. My new company was more than just a business, it was a testament to resilience, to the power of starting over, no matter the odds. And as for Alex and Emily? Well, their fate was a stark reminder that shortcuts and deceit never lead to lasting success. The real victory was here, in the hard work, the late nights, and the unbreakable bond of a team that had weathered the storm together.